Are you looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub 2 Deals Show with your host, Sub 2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub-Tours, this is William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com. I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to, and occasionally we may cover some other real estate topics, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. Today is another episode in our Real Investor series, where we feature real investors sharing real stories and real deals. These guys are investors doing deals all across the country. They don't have boot camps or courses to sell you. They just want to share tips and strategies and things that are working today in their businesses and in their markets. They share them all, and these things can work for you too. So pay attention and take notes. My guest today is Aroldo Villareal, and I know I butchered that again. I apologize for that, Aroldo. But he is an investor in San Antonio. He's been investing for several years and is a full-time investor. I know some of you guys want to do that, so listen to what he has to say. Aroldo, welcome to the Sub2 Deals Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, man, we're certainly glad to have you here today. I've had a lot of interaction with you on the boards and things, and I know that you're buying a lot of houses out there and doing a lot of things, and really wanted to get you on here to share some of the information with the listeners. So we're really, really appreciative of you sharing your time with us today.
Awesome, and I'm excited too.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm originally from Eagle Pass, Texas. I grew up in Mexico for the first few years of my life. I went to school over there, my whole family learned Spanish, so I learned Spanish over there. Then came back second grade over here. I finished college. I finished high school. I went to Texas State University in San Marcos. I got my bachelor's in music education, and I was a mariachi director for 7 years, from 2011 to 2018. That was the thing I was doing. I was a teacher, and I was also playing full-time. I'm a trumpet player, so on the weekends I would play, and during the day I was a teacher.
That's one of the most interesting parts, and the parts I enjoy the most about doing this Real Investor series is the diversity in the backgrounds of investors. It's just amazing the different things people did before they got into investing, but people with all different types of backgrounds and all different types of educational experiences and everything can all be successful with real estate.
Oh, yeah. And I saw my parents owned houses and bought land and stuff like that, but I saw that all around me, but I never really considered them real estate investors kind of thing. But that's why I went into the music. I really liked music in high school, so I just stuck to it. And that's the only reason I went to college, because I got a scholarship through that. Right.
Okay. Well, what got you, with the background in teaching and everything, what really got you interested in real estate?
As I was already teaching, I realized that I didn't really love the teaching part of it. I liked the music, I liked playing and performing, but teaching students the same thing every year was kind of getting boring, and it was stressful. I mean, you get kids who are disrespectful, especially if you teach in a lower socioeconomic school district. You get kids who are disrespectful, don't have parent support and all that stuff. So I'm like, I was getting tired of it. So through my playing, my gigging, and my music and my teaching, I saved up about $50,000 or $60,000, and I wanted to invest that money. I had set a goal to save up $50,000 or $60,000 so I could buy a house, but then I was getting pretty serious with my wife now. But we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I said, you know what? I don't know if I should buy a house right now, because we might move from this town, and I wanted to invest that money into something. So it was either stocks or real estate. I knew nothing about stocks. A lot of people were telling me to do it, but I knew nothing about it. And real estate, I was just flipping through the radio once, and I heard an ad on Lifestyles Unlimited that they hold you by the hand and they teach you exactly how to do a deal from the beginning to the end. So I went to one of those free workshops. Looking back, now I know that everyone gives a free workshop, then they pitch you a $500 weekend course, and then all of a sudden they pitch you another $7,000 course. So I went through all those courses. I paid for that. I was able to start learning. I bought my first rental house that way. And it wasn't a great deal. It was a lot of money out of pocket, but at least I got started. So again, I wanted to invest that money before I got married as well. I'm like, I want to be able to start doing something with this and then eventually get out of teaching. So that's the way I got started through Lifestyles Unlimited. I bought a few houses through them, and then I kind of branched off on my own.
So Lifestyles Unlimited, I seem to have heard of them. I can't really place it. Are they still around?
As far as I know, they're pretty big still. They teach either they got two different platforms. They either teach you the single family, or you could go into the multifamily branch of it. So that multifamily, I think, is like $20,000 up front, and then the single family is it was back then about $5,000 or $7,000.
Right. I tell you, I've never had an interest in anything but single family.
Yeah. I started with single family, and I've been learning about multifamily. I just have not gotten my first deal. I want to start doing small multifamily, between 5 and 20 units, just so I can start getting that as rentals. Because most of my single family, they're just owner finance stuff. So I want to start adding some rentals to my portfolio in terms of multifamily stuff.
Right. I know single family was all that ever appealed to me, and your business model, I think, is and I know we'll talk about that later, but is very similar to mine right now. So you were teaching and you went through this course. How long have you been investing?
I started taking these courses in 2014 at the beginning of it. So I guess since 2014, I bought my first house. My first rental house that I actually just foreclosed on it yesterday. I actually just got it back. I had sold it. I guess it just wants me to take it back. It wanted to come back to me. But yeah, since 2014, I've been investing. Right. But the tricky part with that is, I guess, as a real estate investor, quote unquote, I think I actually started in 2016. The reason I say that is because in 2014, I just bought properties. The way they teach you to do it is you buy a property with a hard money loan, you rehab it, you rent it out, you refinance it into a 30-year amortized loan, and you repeat that. So I did that with 3 houses that year, and I was out of money. My $60,000 were gone, all invested into the 3 properties, and I was cash flowing, I don't know, $900. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh man, well, I guess that's it. This is the way you do it. So I was out of money 2014, 2015. I'm like, well, I still haven't saved up any money. And I kept bugging this guy. On 2014, this guy sold me a house, and it was my 3rd rental. He sold me a house, and he said it's $43,000. I'm like, okay, this is a good price, whatever. So I'm going to buy it. And then he tells me to sign these papers on, like, these documents. It says one of them said $23,000, another one said $20,000, an assignment fee. I'm like, well, so how much am I buying this property for? He's like, no, you're buying it for 43. You just add the two numbers and stuff. I'm like, okay. I was thinking, I'm like, man, is this guy trying to scam me? But it turned out that he just wholesaled me a house and made $23,000 off of it. Right. So I kept bugging that guy. I'm like, dude, what did you do? What is that? And he told me what it was. I started researching. So all 2015, I was just bugging him about it, trying to learn how to do it. And I finally learned, and I started doing it in 2016. That's why I say in 2016, that's when I started actually marketing and talking to sellers directly, because all these other properties were just through agents, just off of the MLS. That's basically what it was. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I was an investor, but to the investors between you and me, there's differences, I guess. There's people that just buy off the MLS through agents, and they don't really know much about it. They just have the money to do it. And the people who actually structure deals and negotiate all that stuff is directly with the sellers.
Exactly. That's, that was really what attracted me to Subject 2 initially. I said, I want to create a cash flow for a lifestyle. And, I've got great credit and I've got a little bit of money, but money's going to run out and I'm going to have what banks call too much exposure. And they're going to go, we can't lend you any more money. You owe us too much. And then what do I do?
Yeah.
But if I take over payments on loans, I can buy, as many as I want. So that was what was so great.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I know there's a cap. They told us after you get so many Fannie Mae loans, you have to, I forgot what they say, but I think they cap you off at 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I mean, I haven't reached those 10, so I just wanted to keep buying until I learned different ways of doing it.
Right. So you got your first deal in 2014, and you said you pretty much, you bought two or three, and that was really all you could do until 2016. When did you go full time?
I could have gone full time in 2017, but well, first of all, my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, she was opposed to me being a real estate investor. She says, "You're not thinking long term. You don't care about me and all this stuff." I'm like, "I haven't even proposed to you." But anyway, that's a side story about it. But I told her, I'm like, "Look, I'm doing this because I want to do it. I'm not putting your money at risk. I'm not putting anything between you and me at risk. But either I'm going to do it and you stay with me, or I'm going to do it and you don't stay with me." That was kind of like my ultimatum, because I'm like, I'm going to do it regardless. So the funny thing about that is, at first she didn't want me to do it. Came 2017, I was telling her, "Look, I think I have enough on here and I have the knowledge to be able to quit my job." She was a teacher as well, but she was going through a lot of stuff through her school, and she's a singer. At that school, she got some kind of cyst on her vocal cord, meaning she couldn't sing. So they had to give her surgery, and then all these other personal stuff that happened to her. So I said, "You know what? Instead of me quitting, you quit your job, and then I'll just stay at my job, and I'll do both. I'll do my teaching, and I'll do real estate investing on the side for another year at least." So 2017, she quit her job. And then 2018, which is in May, at the end of the school year, I submitted my resignation, and I said, "I'm not coming back." And that was my last year teaching. So it was a year ago.
Oh, well, that's great. And I'm guessing that the wife feels a little bit differently about investing now.
Oh, completely. Yeah. At first she's like, well, because that's, we always talk about that. It was a difference in backgrounds. Her family, her dad was a doctor. Her mom used to have a job, and then she stayed at home. But my family, I grew up around business owners all the time. I mean, they weren't super successful, but they always had business. They had restaurants, gift shops, auto part, junkyard places, kind of thing. So that's what I grew up around. And she grew up with, hey, someone that goes to college, you get a career, and then you just do your job, kind of thing. So that's why she was scared of me trying to start a business, because she had never seen that, and that's all I saw when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah, just a difference in the way you think about things, and well, security. I think is really what it comes down to. You're secure with what you know, and she was used to people getting an education and going into a certain career, and that's just what they did.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all she saw, which is fine. I mean, everyone has their own preference, and my parents, they said, "You know what? Exactly what you said. We don't want you to be a business owner because it's volatile and all that stuff. You could have a steady job in an office, making your salary and all that stuff. But when you actually have that, they haven't experienced it, but when you actually have that you have to be there at a certain time, you can't really do what you want. It's a lot different when you're actually doing it." Because my parents, hey, well, we're going to take today off or whatever. They had their own schedules, however they wanted to do it.
It really is, and that's the biggest, most important component to me with investing is the lifestyle, is the ability to say, you know what, I want to do this today or that today. I don't necessarily want to go to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens with me. I have the flexibility. Now, granted, I mean, some people say if you're not a millionaire or you're not where you want to be, you got to be grinding 12 hours a day. I see a spot for that in your schedule, but the fact that I've taken days off when my wife doesn't feel well, or let's just take our family out, whatever. I have the ability to take the day off that day if I want to do it.
Well, if you've been in my group for a while, you know what I think about that grinding 24/7.
Yeah.
I think we do what we do for a reason, and one of the reasons is to be able to enjoy your life. You've got to do a certain amount of things to make sure leads come in and that sort of thing. But, several years ago, I started just buying one house a month, and that's what I teach, is how to turn one house a month into a $50,000 a month income within 3 years. And it's very doable. I know you know this because we're about to get into that part in your business model, and yours is very similar. Tell us about your business model. Yeah, and I know you probably do some different things overall, but one specific thing that you try to focus on in your business.
Yeah, my main focus is really buying subject to and selling with owner financing. I haven't found anything that's good as keeping it as a rental, but yeah, my main thing again is just buying a subject to, putting as little money out of pocket as possible, and selling it with owner financing. But besides that, if other leads come in, such as if it's a wholesale deal or I can buy for cash, I have private lenders that will lend me to buy with cash and then fix it up and sell it with owner financing. I do have some rentals in my portfolio, and I've also joint ventured with other people. But if I could get rid of everything, if I could just focus on one all the time, it would be subject to and selling on a rep.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, you can buy, and this is the amazing thing, is the equity you can create and still price your homes reasonably. And I'm not talking about 20 or 30% over market, but I can take a $200,000 house that I can buy with only, at 90% LTV and create a $50,000 or $60,000 profit off of that house within 36 months.
Yeah. I've seen those breakdowns that you do, and I've seen also Jonathan, Jonathan Rexford. He's also done those breakdowns. And at first, when you haven't done it, you don't believe it. You're like, oh no, that's not true. Whatever, they're trying to sell me a course or something. But yeah, I mean, I've done it recently. Actually, I'm closing on a house tomorrow that they're just giving it to me. It's not even in foreclosure. They're caught up on payments, but they just got to be in Hawaii in a week or something like that. So they just said they listed it with an agent. They didn't have enough equity to pay the agent. They didn't want to pay out of pocket. They're leaving everything in the house. So I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be an awesome deal for myself. I could mark it up 10% and get that as a down payment, and then try to cash flow. I usually try to cash flow about $300 a month minimum on each property.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I mean, the typical, $60,000 a year typical family, which if you break that down is $5,000 a month. If you're making $300 a month in cash flow, how many houses do you need to not need a job?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just not that many. You're talking about 20 houses and you're bringing in $6,000 a month.
Yeah.
So, there goes, the need for a job. And I mean, literally anyone could start today, buy one house a month. And, in less than 2 years, you're free and clear. I mean, really, it's just an incredible investing. Is just, there's no word to describe it. I mean, to me.
Yeah. I haven't had the consistency of buying one house a month, but there's like, for example, I think it was I don't know what month it was. One of the months I didn't buy a house, but then the next month like this past month, I bought 4. So I'm like, well, it would be nice to just have a consistency, but at the same time, it's nice to have all of a sudden 4 of them or 3 of them close at the same time. And then I just got to get rid of them now.
If your life absolutely depended on generating quality leads within the next 24 hours, what would you do right now to make that happen?
Hands down, it would be cold calling, pre-foreclosures. That's what I do all the time. I cold call them, text them, There's a big variety. If I could get a hold of them on the phone, that's perfect. But if not, then by text. If not by mail. If not by door knocking, and then just repeating that until I get a hold of them, or they tell me I got the wrong number, or they tell me some choice words, and then I never talk to them again.
So your first choice is to pick up the phone and try to call them.
Yeah.
Okay. I know when I did pre-foreclosures when I was local, I tell you, Georgia and was a lot like Texas in that we had a very short foreclosure timeline. I mean, there were no tip-off documents at the courthouse. The publication the first Saturday of the month in the newspaper, that was the first time anybody knew what houses were in foreclosure. And I would run through those and look for the old security deeds in the sections of town that I like to buy. And I would head straight on out there with that newspaper, man, and I'd start knocking. I mean, because that's how you got the good deals.
Yeah. Yeah. These past 2 months, or I guess 3 months, I haven't really done much of door knocking because we have a 2-month-old baby now, plus a 16-month-old. So, but yeah, I haven't done it. But if I could choose one, narrow it down to one, it would have to be cold calling pre-foreclosures. That's the best source of leads for me for what I want to do.
Right. When you call these guys, do you just say they answer? Or do you say, "Hey, I noticed your home's in foreclosure and I'm looking to buy"? I mean, how do you approach that when they pick up the phone?
I actually learned this from Don Costa's podcast of what he would do when he would door knock. And the funny thing about this is that house that I foreclosed on yesterday, a lot of people were calling me. They were calling me thinking that I was the guy going to foreclosure because I'm the guy, I was the lender.
Uh-huh.
So I got to hear what other people, how other people approach it, which was pretty cool. But at the same time, I can see why they're not getting deals. All they say is like, they call me like, hey, I see that your house is facing foreclosure. Do you want to sell it? I said, first of all, they didn't even know if I was the owner. They didn't ask that. They didn't even know if I was the right person. And then all they want to do is just buy my house. I said, yeah, I want to sell it, but it's not mine. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, can we make an offer? And I said, yeah, once I get it back. And then they said, well, they kind of lowball me. And if it works, just give us a call. And then that's it. They just hang up.
So it's not a very polished presentation.
No, not at all. And I asked one of the ladies. I said, what's the name of your company? Not because I was curious about who the company was, but I actually wanted to call the owner of the company and tell him, hey, dude, you're losing a lot of deals because of this cold caller. But she didn't want to give that to me. I was actually trying to help him.
She would not tell you the name of the company?
No. Like, oh, we're just a group of investors that will buy nationwide. I said, okay, great. Anyway, but my approach is actually trying to help them. I've studied a lot of different ways on how to stop a foreclosure, such as either a loan modification, forbearance agreement, bankruptcy as a very last option, reinstating, which is the just catch up the payments kind of thing. All these different ways for them to be able to stop the foreclosure and keep the house. And I actually show them how to do it. And if they want to do it and they can, great. That's all they need. And I had a lady tell me, she's like, why are you doing this? Like, she says, thank you very much for this information, but why? What's your benefit? I said, nothing. I said, but I know that if none of these work and your two choices are losing the house or selling the house, I'm going to be the guy you're going to call to sell it. And she agreed. And I get that all the time. So some people say, I'm going to try a bankruptcy. I'm going to try this. And for example, the people who are going to try a bankruptcy, they think I'm just going to file a bankruptcy. The foreclosure stopped and they wipe my debt away. I never had to pay it. But once I explain it to them, they understand it, especially if they're trying to do a Chapter 13. And they understand that it really doesn't make sense for them to do it. Or once I educate them about the loan modification process, they understand that it's not a for sure thing, even though they're trying to help you and they're sending you all the paperwork, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a loan modification. A loan modification is just a courtesy from the bank. It's not an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So they get all that information and they see that I know my stuff and they see me as a professional. So they actually call me and they say, hey, can you give me a little bit of guidance on this, or what does this mean? And once they realize that nothing else is working and that they don't want to lose the house, they can sell it to me. And then I go out there and I tell them, even if you want to sell me the house, it doesn't mean I can buy it, but at least you have that option. And that's the way I've gotten most of my deals, by being upfront with them that I don't really want to buy it if there's a way for you to keep it.
That's right. That's right. I totally agree with you. If you approach people that are in a bad situation with a heart to help them first, and you do everything you can to help them, it's exactly like you said. If those things don't work and their choices are to lose it or sell it, they're going to sell it to you because you've tried to help them.
Yeah. A lot of the people that have been called before, they say, I don't want to sell my house. That's the first thing that they tell me.
Right.
So I just reply, I'm like, great, I don't want to buy your house. Do you want to keep it? And then they say yes. Then we start the conversation later on after that. But
right.
I want to tell them, look, I don't want to buy it if you don't want to sell it.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Aroldo is going to share with us his favorite tools that he uses to help him in the business and how he uses those. So we'll be right back.
The Sub2 Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Hey Sub2ers, do you want to learn how to get the deed but need a little help getting started? Want to learn how to fill out the paperwork, how to use a land trust, how to market for deals, how to negotiate with sellers, and more? Join us in the Sub2 Deals Facebook coaching group. Get the benefits of one-on-one coaching without the big price tag. Learn to do Sub2 right with coaching in a group setting and mastermind format. Head over to sub2deals.com right now and click on consulting and group coaching. We'll save you a seat. Back to the show, the Sub2 Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub2ers, we are back with Aroldo. He is a real estate investor in San Antonio, and he has been sharing all kinds of tips with us on how he runs his business, how he deals with pre-foreclosures, and that sort of thing. And now he's going to help us out with what tools he uses in his business. He does a lot of cold calling, so I'm guessing he has some cold calling tools that he wants to share with us.
Yeah. With that, I use Mojo Dialer. I've used other dialers such as Call Tools and Zen Call, but I believe those other ones are for people who have a lot of cold callers at the same time. Mojo Dialer, it is a little bit more expensive, but it just fits what I wanted to do. And yeah, I guess my favorite tool is Mojo. I use Podio for keeping track of my deals, and VAs. I know it's not a software or anything, but having virtual assistants helps me not have to do so much work, because at first I was doing everything myself in terms of looking online for the online records, putting them onto a spreadsheet, skip tracing them and all that. But now I have a VA that does all that, and by 8 a.m, everything's uploaded into Mojo, just ready for us to start dialing.
Oh, so you're actually doing the calling yourself. You don't use VAs to do the calling.
Yeah, I don't use VAs. I either do it myself, or I have someone that's here locally in San Antonio that does them for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
they're bilingual. It's here in San Antonio. There's a lot of people that only speak Spanish.
Right.
So it's good to have someone that's bilingual, because we've been able to capitalize on those. Otherwise, if we didn't speak Spanish, we wouldn't be able to do anything with them.
Right. So are you only working in the San Antonio market, or do you get out into other areas too?
Personally, yeah, I've only focused here in San Antonio. I've looked at other places. I've gotten leads in other places, but I just haven't closed any deals outside of San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing is the fact that I haven't gotten to that point or jumped over that hurdle mind hurdle, at least, of being able to do everything virtual. I mean, I know like you do it, you do virtual. You don't look at the houses yourself. You don't meet with the people face to face, but I meet with everyone face to face and look at the houses myself.
Right. Well, I mean, when I invested locally, I did that too. And to be honest with you, that's one of the things I miss the most is actually being able to meet with the sellers and talk with them. I just always seem to do very well with that, and trying to get that to translate to just the phone can be challenging. Trying to establish some rapport and some trust.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, one of the houses I just bought, and it was just because my the best man at my wedding was her daughter's, what do you call it? Her daughter's band director. So because of that relationship and being able to meet him face to face, the reason that conversation started is because I showed up with a shirt that said Harlandale High School, which is her school's rival. So she said, "Oh, get out of here." So we started talking about that, and it ended up being that she knew my best friend, and that's the reason she ended up selling me the house, even though another person had offered her, I don't know, like $5,000 or $6,000 higher than I did.
Well, sometimes it's about relationships,
Yeah.
that makes a difference. So when you get a lead on a sub two deal, and there's everybody's got a process that they put this thing through to evaluate it, and they look at all the different components, the sales price as opposed to the actual value of the home, and the monthly payment as opposed to what they can get for rent. What are the keys that you use for criteria to evaluate a sub two deal and decide if it's pass or play?
I got to be able to make money somewhere. If it's cash flow or if it's on the down payment or things like that. But ideally, my ideal deal would be at 80% of value. So if the house is worth $200,000, I would want to buy it at $160,000 all in, with including repairs and everything like that.
Right.
Because I'm not buying it cash. So, but I'm willing to go up to 100% of value. But the thing is, depending on the money that I'm going to put out, plus if any repairs, I want to be able to get my money out on the down payment. So on a $200,000 house, again, if I have $15,000, $20,000 out, I want to be able to get that as a $20,000 down payment, so I have zero money in the deal at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I focus on properties that, even though they need repairs, as long as they are livable, because I can sell them at a little bit of a discount. I clean them up, and I tell people, look, I can sell you the house like this, or I can do the repairs, and it's going to be at this cost. Usually people just want to buy it as is, because if it's going to cost me $10,000 to repair it, I'm not just going to mark it up $10,000. I'll probably mark it up 20.
Right.
But yeah, my goal is to have zero money in the deal, or be able to get my whole money out within 12 months through the cash flow. And again, the other thing is having a minimum cash flow of $300 per deal. And I focus on properties that are $250,000 or below, because I find that anything higher than that in my market, it's harder to move.
Right. There's a larger pool of buyers. I call that the one step up from the starter home.
Yeah.
Most of my buyers are families in their 30s. They got a couple of small children, and they're moving out of the starter home. Their families grow, and they're looking for something nicer. They're getting more concerned about location and school districts and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I also don't focus on super low end, because there's properties here that are worth $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, and usually those are just really, really beat up. I've seen some houses. I was buying a house for $8,000 that the ladies lived there for 30 years. The house is only 30 years old, but when they built it, they never put any water, electricity, or sewer. And her family grew up there. So I said, where do you get the water from? And she said every day they would go and get buckets from the neighbors to have water to drink and to shower and everything. I'm like, where does the sewer go? They're like, oh, well, my dad had made a pipe go into the dirt, and that's where the water goes. I'm like, what the heck? No electricity or anything. It was crazy. But yeah, that's why I don't try to focus on those cheaper homes. I focus anywhere between $100,000 to $250,000.
Right. That's that. You're so similar to me in what you do out there. It's just it's just that's just a model that works.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be stuck with a house that I can't sell. I mean, the cheaper houses, yeah, that's not a big deal. But 300, 400. I had a lady who wanted to just hand me the keys to a $600,000 house. I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to be able to move this property.
Well, I mean, you might have to hang on to that thing for 6 months or more before you get somebody in it.
Yeah, with $4,500 payments a month.
That's right.
No way.
Yeah, that's that's right. And even if you're getting a good deal on it, equity wise or whatever else, I mean, still the holding cost and everything on that, it's kind of scary. So
yeah,
when you get into these houses, let's say somebody's got a $200,000 house and they'll let you have it for 180 or 160, but it needs $20,000 worth of work. Now, do you go into Hip National Bank and fund that, or do you use private lenders? Because I find, investors are in one of two camps. They're in the not any of my money into this house, or it's, hey, I don't mind using mine. I'm going to get it back in the next couple of months anyway.
Yeah. That's one of the things I have not found private lenders for second position notes. So I use my own money on these properties. And I mean, I've seen exactly what you say. A lot of people, seasoned investors, say I've never put any of my own money out of pocket. And I just haven't found someone. I do have private lenders, but they want to learn the first position. I don't have private lenders that are willing to lend in second position, even though I show them, look, this is the value of the house. This is this, but they say, well, if for something happens and you can't pay that first loan, then I'm going to be wiped out, which is the case.
Yeah.
But in all these properties, I do use my own money. I do have, I don't know if it's a line of credit. I don't know what you call it, but it's like a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
But they send me those checks that for 18 months you can get $30,000, $50,000
right.
with 0% interest for the next 18 months.
Right.
So I have used those. I actually just paid them off, so they're ready to go again if I need them.
That's, I'm the same way. I don't mind putting, 10, 20,000 into a house to make up back payments or whatever needs to be done, because I'm going to get that back from my buyer in a down payment. So, short term doesn't bother me. Yeah.
And that's another reason, like, why I haven't kept some of these sub-twos as rentals, because I want to get my money out.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to get it back in the down payment. Like, I have a house that I would want to keep as a rental, but I'm like, well, I'm going to have 15, 20,000 into it. I don't want to just leave it stuck there. I want to get it out.
Yeah. Well, can you give us an example of let's just say a typical deal that maybe you're working on right now?
Yeah, I actually went out there yesterday to change the locks on it. One of the properties I bought was from a guy. He bought it back in 2002. It was built in 2002, and he bought it back then. And now he just wanted to sell it. He wasn't telling me why. I knew there was something. And when I saw him talking to his wife and his wife talking to him, I'm like, I know there's something going on here. But he just wasn't disclosing it. But anyway, he found me. He wasn't in foreclosure. I guess he was pre-foreclosure. He had missed 2 payments. Right. But he called me. He wanted to sell the house, and he owed about $65,000 on it. The house ARV is about $155,000, and he wanted a cash offer. And I gave him a cash offer, but he was going to get net, I don't know, like $5,000, something like that. But once I knew what he wanted, I asked him, hey, do you need to sell this house to buy another one? And he said, no, I'm not going to buy another one ever again. I'm just going to move. I'm going to live in an apartment. I'm like, okay, well, good. That means you don't need the loan paid off. And he was fine with leaving the loan in place. The payments are $675 on it, and or something like that. And the rental is rental market is about $1,300. So
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
man,
sweet.
this is a good cash flow property.
Oh, yeah.
So after our chat that he owed 65, I offered him $15,000 for him. But he liked that. He wanted to do it, and he spoke to his wife. They were ready to go. But from there, he ended up getting in his pocket about $11,000 because he owed about $1,600 to the HOA, and he owed 2 payments. So all in all, after everything was said and done, he got about $11,000, and I covered the rest of it. It came out to $15,000 out of pocket for me, but he got that amount. So now I just cleaned it up, and I put it on the market for $135 as is, or I could fix it up. And by fixing it up, it would be painting it, maybe changing the cabinets or painting the cabinets, I don't know, and doing some floor work, and that's basically it.
So basically, you bought a house worth 155 for less than $80,000.
Yeah, right about a little bit under 80,000, but yeah. Again, it needs maybe if I do work to it, it's in livable condition. But if I do the work to it to make it worth about 155, I would probably need to put about 10,000 into it.
Okay, so 90,000. So a house worth 155.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't give you the story.
He wouldn't until later. After we had the agreement, he said they were having marital problems and that he had lost his job and he had borrowed some money to pay people back and all that stuff. So they just wanted to be out of it. They were going to move to Laredo, which is a town like 2.5 hours away.
Right.
But that one was a lot of follow-up. He had come in through my website.
Uh-huh.
And then I just kept following up with him until he finally said, okay, let's meet. So we met, and then he liked my offer. But, some people use this as a tool, but I really legitimately told him, hey, I got 3 more offers that I made today. I want to make sure that if you're going to want to sell me your house, I need you to tell me if you're going to do it or not, because I don't want to tell you I can do it and then I'm going to run out of money. And he said, yeah, we definitely want to do it. So then I sent him the paperwork online. He signed it. And then once his wife was in town, I got the notary in there and we closed the deal at their house.
Why do you think someone with that kind of equity didn't just list the house? Because of the repairs?
No. And I asked him, every time I talk to people, I said, well, how come you don't list it? I want to get their objections because if I give them an offer and they say I need to think about it, it could be because they want to think about listing it. They want to think about fixing it themselves or keeping it as a rental. So I always bring that up. So I asked him, how come you don't just list the house? He says, I don't have the time. I'm already 2 months behind. I don't have the money to make another payment. And I don't want to go to foreclosure.
Right.
He wasn't facing foreclosure yet. But once he reached the 3 months behind, they would probably start that. And then I found out that he had done a loan modification in 2018. So he was already falling behind back then, and they were able to modify his loan. So to another 30-year loan, but that's the reason why his payment went down to $670 a month, which is an amazing payment to have here in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah. No kidding. On a $150,000 house.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you know Texas, but property taxes are ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if I took off the property taxes on that one, the actual payment would probably be like
About $300.
$300, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
I know
crazy.
insurance is really high there too.
Yeah. But I'm like, man, I could, and this is the property I'm telling you, I'm like, I would want to keep it as a rental because of the spread in the monthly. But I'm like, no, I might as well just list it, get my money out, and then get the full $500 or $600 cash flow. Because as a rental, you got to take into consideration vacancies, repairs, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I like owner financing, because when I do the numbers, if my underlying is $900 and the incoming is $1,500, that's $600 in cash flow. I don't have to factor in vacancy and maintenance and none of that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
So this guy came in as a lead from your website.
Yeah.
And you just followed up with him. What do you think from the first time he submitted a lead on the website till you were able to close something with him? How much follow-up do you think you did?
It was probably almost 2 months.
That's it.
Yeah, I always call, leave a voicemail, send a text, send an email, send a letter in the mail, all that stuff just to try. Because the first he submitted the lead on my website, I called him right away, and I kind of the next step in the process was to go look at the house. So that's where he took a long time. I'm like, oh well, we can do it later. Then he would cancel on me because he was being honest about it. He works 2 jobs. He works at night, so he sleeps during the day. So that was the hard thing about it. I said, look, I can meet you whenever, as long as there's light outside. I want to be able to see the house.
Getting the details like that, the guy's too busy. He works 2 jobs. His payment's only $670. You have to wonder why he can't make his house payment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he had told me
there's always a story. There's
yeah,
always a story.
he messed up his knee. He messed up his back at work, so he couldn't work for a few months. That's why he fell behind. Then he borrowed money to catch up on the payments from a friend, and he was a comic writer. So he was tried to do a business writing comics, and he said it failed. So I mean, divorces, from what I hear, happen. The main reason for divorces is because of financial issues. It's money. So I think that's what was going on. On top of everything, his failed business, he fell behind. Now his wife was tired of that situation, so they were separating.
I see. Well, tell me about your most unusual deal. The one that everyone remembers. Hey, yeah, I had this deal one time that, whatever. What was the strangest circumstance you ever dealt with?
If there's in terms of strangest or a tricky one was that this guy in Austin had a lead for a pre-foreclosure. He just didn't know how to do a subject to or anything, but he knew that I knew. So he calls me on a Wednesday and tells me, hey, this lady's going to foreclosure on Tuesday. Can you give him a call to see if it's a deal? So I talked to the lady. It sounds like a deal. So the next day, Thursday, I meet her, and they're ready to go. And they like my offer. I offered them, I don't know, I think it was $1,500 to them. The house was worth, I ran quick comps. It came out to about 135, but their loan balance was like 72 or 74, something like that. So I offered them $1,500 on top of that. And they were behind about $11,000. But I knew it was a deal. So on Thursday, we signed the paperwork. Friday, we closed it. And we had to do a TRO. It's called a temporary restraining order to delay the foreclosure on Tuesday because we didn't know what the reinstatement really was and all these other numbers that we needed. So the tricky part with that one was that I didn't know what the guy who gave me the lead, I didn't know what they wanted to do. Do they want to partner up? Do they want to just sell me the lead or what it was? But I knew it was a deal, and I didn't have much time to explain to them and for us to sign a JV agreement or anything like that. I said, I'm going to close it. I'm going to use my money. I'll pay the attorney. Let's just close this. And I paid the attorney to do the TRO. But not a lot of people have this. But for me, I know I'm not going to screw someone. Mm-hmm. I could have just kept the deal on my name and everything and forget the person, give them $500. But ethically, I'm like, well, I know this is a good deal, and we ironed out the details after that. I don't recommend that. But I mean, I did it because I knew I wasn't going to screw them over. Anyway, so the house ended up appraising about 150. We got offers for 155. The reason we didn't keep this one as an owner finance deal is because I'm like, I don't want to be splitting $300, $400 worth of cash flow every month. And if things go south, we have to start putting money back into it. 50-50, it becomes a hassle. I've never done it, but I'm assuming it would be a hassle.
Yeah, it could be. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, but the other thing with this one is that the original mortgagor on it, the original owner, had passed away. Then his mom was the administrator of the estate. She was the executor. But then there were all these liens on the house. There were all these deeds from other people to a daughter, then from that daughter to her. It was weird. Then the title company was like, what the heck? How come there's all these random deeds from random people that never owned the house? So they had to figure that out. It turned out it was the heirs. These people were they had tried to save money, and they just read online on how to settle an estate. So they just had people fill out quitclaim deeds, which are not even valid here in Texas. People don't use them in Texas. And then all of a sudden, since all these other people were on title, all of a sudden, all these other judgments started coming up. The house that we thought we were going to be able to sell for $150, judgments and liens and everything came up to about $120,000. Like 122. I'm like, what the heck? We're going to lose money on this. So once we finally got everyone involved, we got their socials and social, driver license, and all that stuff. It turned out that none of them were them. And then my attorney was able to help us out and take off some of the liens, because they said, look, these are over 5 years old, and according to the statute of limitations of the property code, they don't have to be taken into consideration. So that helped. There was nothing owed against the property besides the loan balance. And that ended up netting us, I think we put $20,000 out of pocket. We ended up getting a check for $64,000. After we got the 20, we split that 40 something.
Right. That was a lot of work for that 40,000, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. And I kept going out there myself and getting the people, because people wouldn't show up. The contractors. I don't do a lot of big rehabs or anything like that, but yeah, it was a tricky one, especially when I saw the title commitment. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be horrible. I was freaking out. It was like 2 a.m. when I got it, and I couldn't sleep that night.
I bet. Man, that was a mess, wasn't it? Yeah, I tell you, a deal like that, man, when it's all screwed up on the title.
Yeah. And again, the other thing is, this is what you do as well. We don't really close subject twos through a title company.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you do.
I don't.
Now, but that's a risk you have to take. I mean, you don't have to take it, but that's a risk, especially when you got to close something really, really fast.
Well, now I'll tell you this. Now, when I invested locally, and this is what I tell investors to do now, every investor needs to know how to do a title search, at least taking it down from the current owner to today.
Yeah.
You need to have that skill so you can run to the courthouse and do something really quickly if you need to. And that's the only reason in these, when you've got a day or two window before the auction, that's the only reason you can, that's the only way to do it. But no, we never buy without a title search, but we do close with notaries.
Yeah. I get a mobile notary to meet me at the house. I used to do all of them through an attorney. Mm-hmm. Which is the same attorney who does my owner finance deals. But after I looked at all the paperwork, I'm like, this is exactly the same. All I have to learn is how to do the legal description on the deed and change the names. That's basically it.
There's not much to it, really.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'll save some money on that, and I can do it a little bit faster, and I can do it myself. So that's the reason I started doing them.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing. It's not the money. You do save, and over the course of, if you're buying 20, 30 houses a year at, $1,000 a pop, yeah, it adds up. But it's the convenience, just being able to set it up whenever you want to and get it closed.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And the title search, I was able to learn how to do it on my own. And I also use, I've had a subscription to TLO. Mm-hmm. And on there, if you search the person's social and then their driver license, which I get all that information from them, I try to pull if they have any judgments and anything like that. It shows up on there. And I can do that legally because I have a contract with them.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't really do that. But that's one of the other things that I'm like, it speeds it up. I'm like, I pull up their information. Do they have judgments? Have they ever been to jail? Different things like that, or child support liens against themselves.
Right. Well, Aroldo, it sounds like you got a fantastic business and everything going. You're full time. You're you're doing deals. I mean, you do have a very similar model to what I do, which, I love it. If you could give a new investor wanting to get started today any advice, what would it be?
There's a ton of ways to make money in real estate, but only the ones that you actually do are going to be profitable. When I first started, I was like, well, there's lease options, there's wholesale, there's rentals, there's mobile homes, there's all these other deals that you get caught with a shiny, what do you call it, shiny object syndrome or something like that.
Yeah.
That you want to do all of them, but you never really get good at any of them, and you don't make any money. So choose one and then start doing it. And if in the end, once you are successful at it and you don't like it, then start doing something else. But no other strategy is going to be easier. Like there's no strategy that's going to be easier than the other one. You have to prospect, you have to make offers, you have to talk to people, and they're all the same. I guess they're all hard, but it just comes down to what you really want to do. Do you love seeing something ugly and fixing it up and making it really nice? Is that what makes you satisfied? And then go and be a flipper. But I guess the advice is just choose something and go deep into it, learn everything about it, and just start taking action on it.
Well said. Aroldo, I want you to know how much we appreciate you being on today and sharing your business and how it works. I just thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great. Well, Sub-Tours, that's it for this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode along with a complete transcript at sub2podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and maybe even give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. It only takes a minute and it helps others discover the show. You can subscribe as well as leave a rating and review by visiting Apple Podcast. Just do a quick search for the Sub-2 Deals Show. It would also be fantastic if you would consider sharing our podcast with a fellow real estate investor who you think might benefit from it. And finally, if you haven't yet, you can join our free Facebook Subject To group at sub2forum.com. Just type in SUB2 forum.com and it'll take you right to the Facebook group. You can also find other resources and articles and things to help you grow your real estate investing business at sub2deals.com. So until next time, keep learning, keep talking to sellers, and you will get out there and buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2 Deals. We'll catch you next time.